Coming up, the legends think back on their most memorable games. But first, we've got more stories. Greg Pruitt.
I can tell you a story that because of Joe Washington, we missed the bus.
Oh, because of Joe Washington.
What game was that, Joe?
That was Kansas State.
Kansas State. And Joe was a freshman. And
I was rooming with
my
Greg
roommate. He was my roommate.
He's throwing you under the bus here.
Yeah.
Is what's happening.
So we got up that morning, and we had a little routine. Joe liked to watch Kid Power. And so
I could tell by that time what time we needed to leave.
It was okay because I, too, knew about after it was over, it was time to go catch the bus. Well, the time was set back that night, and we failed to remember that. So when Kid Power came on, it came on like an hour later. And so Joe knew it, but I hadn't realized that him being a freshman, I didn't want to listen to what a freshman couldn't tell me anything. So he kept saying, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. I said, come on, you get nervous, it's the game. They're not going to leave Joe Washington and Greg Pruitt.
Somebody not going to leave Greg Pruitt. They will leave Joe Washington. I'm a freshman.
So anyway, we go out to the bus. There's an empty bus sitting out there. And I said, here I am. I'm listening to this freshman, and I'm out here first. I don't like to be first. I like to be last. So I get on
in Chuck's seat.
I'll let you take over.
No, he sits. He gets on. We get out there. 3 buses like we always have. And Greg gets on the bus, and he sits in the front seat, Chuck's seat, and he sits up here with his hands like this. I'm saying, well, I told you, we early. I go to the back, just like a little freshman does, and we sit there for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then Greg looks back there at me, and he says, they left us.
Can you believe they left us? So we called a highway patrol, and they laughed. After they got through laughing, they sent a car, and we actually beat the bus to normal. So we're getting dressed. So I know we're in big trouble. And I know Chuck, as soon as he know we're there and he gets there, he's going to have something to say. So I'm telling Joe, let me do all the talking. Don't say nothing. And sure enough, they come and get us, and he calls us a lot of different names. And Joe starts laughing, and I start laughing. Chuck wasn't laughing. I think we didn't start that game, did we?
No, I
don't think we started. We didn't start that game. I think we ended up playing like the second quarter, but we won. But that was Joe's fault.
Yeah. Hey, but the killing part is he called me a jackass freshman. He called Greg a horseshit Heisman Trophy candidate. and then he called him a prima donna, and Greg said, "Thank you, Coach." And Greg always telling you,
it sounds good.
Yeah. So he didn't realize a couple of years later what the man had said. He didn't know what he said either.
Prima donna. That wasn't the only time you missed the bus.
I thought about the Sugar Bowl when
that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the Sugar Bowl, too.
This is a true story. I got this rep for being late, even though I tried to be on time. So I was, in fact, going to the Sugar Bowl. We got the wrong itinerary, myself and Ken Pope. And we drove to New Orleans. And it was his car. I was riding. I wasn't driving. But when we got there, we were late, like an hour late. So he told us, anything happen the rest of the week, you're going to be in big trouble. So it's the day of the game. So I said, this is my last game as a senior. I said, I'm going to surprise everybody. I'm going to be on time. So I get dressed, and I go down to the elevator. I'm like 45 minutes before I should be there. And this elevator never stopped on that floor. So I'm standing there. My roommate comes out. He said, man, you still waiting on this elevator? I said, yeah. He said, well, just take the service elevator. I said, no, I'm not taking the service elevator. I'm waiting on this elevator. So as a result, it never did come. So eventually I took the elevator. I missed the bus again. So I go in. And, how the locker room is like a bar. I mean, it's loud. And when I hit the door, it's like you could hear a pin drop. I was, oops, I'm in trouble again. So I go to my locker, just try to pretend ain't nothing happening. I don't have no uniform. I don't have nothing. They say, all right, you got Coach Fairbanks want to see you. So I go in, and he has my uniform next to him, and then he just goes off on me. And that's when he called me the prima donna. That's what I told him. I said, oh, thank you, Coach. And then he really went off then. So I didn't start that game either. We played, I think in second quarter we played. I think we played Penn State, right?
Yeah, Penn State.
Played Penn State.
Hey, I don't know if you probably don't. You probably know this, but Switzer and Galen Hall were in there begging Chuck said, "Oh, he got to play. He's got to play, Coach."
I think he learned his lesson pretty much.
Don't let him play at first serious. Especially when we're on defense.
We got the Texas game coming up before long. I grew up 120 miles west of Fort Worth, Dallas. I'm in junior high. I don't know anything in association with Oklahoma because my family had all gone to Texas. We drive to the OU Texas game, get out, go up there. OU jumps ahead 28-0 the first quarter. Eddie Crowder's the quarterback. Teams are evenly matched. Now I want Eddie to tell us how they got to beat the hell out of Texas that day.
Well, they decided they really ought to tackle McPhail and Vessels. So they brought their secondary up about 4 yards from the line of scrimmage. Well, the only pass plays we had was fake to McPhail and throw it to Vessels, or fake to Vessels and throw it to McPhail, or a tight end. So we threw 4 of them. So it's 28-0.
You threw 4 times, it's 28-0.
Yeah, Eddie, and they were highly rated. I mean, it was an even game, wasn't it? Pretty close.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people thought they were a little better.
Than y'all were.
Because we had really a good team, but they had great line. You know, Stolhansky was an All-American, and, you know, they had a flock of really good players.
What was the final score?
Beg pardon?
I say I caught one of those.
Buddy
That's
caught
right,
one
Buddy caught one. So they didn't all go to Vessels McPhail. Buddy was the other running.
What was the final score?
49-20, I think.
Yeah. And at halftime, we're ahead 28-0, I think. And we go in the locker room, and Bud Wilkinson is this class gentleman we've all discussed. You know, he was very aristocratic, and you never saw him giddy, except at that halftime. And he came in the locker room, and he says, man, he said, I got news for you. He said, you can set a new world record.
That's great. That's great. We were doing the show the other day with the Alabama heroes. We started laughing about Alabama having a curfew coach. Ken Stabler was sitting right up there where Keith is sitting today. Did you have to do a lot of that, a lot of policing when you were the head coach?
Well, I had a lot of police around. I didn't know. That's a low blow here. Yeah, you threw me under the bus.
Hey, all I remember is 1984 in the Orange Bowl, we got beat by Washington. And the next year, you weren't going to let that happen again. Remember, we had 2-a-days in the Orange Bowl in 1985.
Made us leave 2 weeks early.
Two weeks early. Brought these mats underneath the bleachers.
Wouldn't let us go to any of the events, couldn't have any fun, couldn't drink, couldn't do nothing.
It wasn't any fun. Hey,
we won a national championship. That's right. I'd rather have that ring than be out.
I'll love you for that, too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you coming to Oklahoma, too.
I think it was me and my roommate came in late, and the elevator opened up, and there's Coach Switzer sitting there in his past curfew. And he looks at us and he goes, oh, hell, I'm just now getting in, too.
You're lucky you weren't a turd. Hey, did we treat him different? No, we never did. We don't.
Hey, Coach Switzer, tell us how the wishbone came to Oklahoma in that meeting. Well, how did y'all get to that point?
Well, I tell you, I knew we were going to get our ass fired in the 70s when they had them Chuck bumper stickers everywhere. And we were trying to run the Houston Veer, and we didn't know what the hell to do with it. And but that's what Chuck wanted to do because he had come from Houston, and he wanted to change from the I formation and run what Bill Yeoman's offense was. We didn't have the people that, we had the talent, but we didn't have the intricacy and the knowledge and how they implement it and the system. Really, we didn't know the system. Had anyone to coach that system or be in it. And we got great talent. We got guys from Texas. We got Greg Pruitt, Joe Wiley, and Mildred, and we got great talent, but all of a sudden we're wallowing around and not doing that. And we played, thank goodness we had an open date, and we played Oregon State. Oregon State had a big old slow white fullback and hammered up in there about 40 times and ended up beating us about, that day.
That's called racial profiling, Coach.
No, because what I'm saying, he is a big white slow fullback. And he's hitting up there, and then he is no good, is what I'm saying. And we let him beat our ass that day. And I'm thinking, and I'm gonna tell you, I go into Chuck after that ball game and said, Chuck, it's a disgrace. I said, we got better players than they got. We got better athletes than they got. We don't know what we're doing, and we're gonna get your ass fired, and we're gonna be fired with you. And so that night, I got the coaches together, Jack. And I know you hated to hear this, but Jack won't throw that football, but I knew one thing, that Texas was having a track meet. And we're getting ready to play Texas. So we're in there, it's an open date, but we're starting on Texas right now during this open date weekend, and I'm getting to look at this film. I'm watching them laughing and giggling, putting half 100 on everybody, going up and down the field. And I'm looking at this, and I said, boys, I turned to our coaches. I said, that's what we ought to be doing right there. I said, we got more speed than they got. We got better runners than they got, and we got Jack Milton, the best quarterback come out of Texas. And we better be, and everybody in that room was coaches. I said, we ought to. He said, but the other guy's in that office in there, he's the one that makes the decision. I said, Lacewell, come on, we're going to go talk to him. But first, I had to have the support of both the offensive and defensive staff. We're going to make a change. I said, I need to know, are you all in favor and support me on this? And every one of them said, Coach, we're going to get our ass fired. We can't score enough for you guys on defense, so we need to do this. So I went in there and I talked to Chuck, and I said, Chuck, I know you're going to pick up the phone, you're going to call Duffy, and you're going to call Biggie Munn, you're going to call all your Michigan State guys, you're going to ask them what to do. But I'm saying to you, hey, Chuck, this is what we need to do. Don't take their advice. They don't live in this house. We do. And we know what we got, and we're the only ones who can handle our problem, correct our problem. So that Chuck looked at me, you know how he does, squints that eye and doesn't say much and kind of sits there, and he says, you know, I'll let you know in the morning. So at night, we all sit in that staff room. He goes home. We don't know what he's going to do. He comes back that next morning, and he says, all right, we're going to Wishbone. So we start that week of practice. We get the team together. Of course, Jack wants to throw the football like hell. I got to pick up Jack. If he hadn't had you, we would have never been able to do what we did because you were the father of the Wishbone. I mean, you were a great football player. And I said, Jack, this is what you need to be doing. We'll let you throw the ball every once in a while. And we need to let you jump up that field. Your intelligence, your smart. And I said, we got Joe Wiley, Greg Pruitt, and these guys here. We need to be doing it. And we really did. So we started. And we go play Texas, and it was gave birth to that thing. We get down there, and we line up, and we get the hell kicked out of us that day. But I'm going to tell you something. I knew we moved the ball. We sustained the ball. We'd moved 3 or 4 first downs in a row and held it for 6 or 7 minutes. And I said, well, we are really going to get better because we're going to have a beating Colorado party next week. We're going to get help beat. You know what? We grew up in a week. We went up and fortunate to beat Colorado. We kept getting better and getting better. The next year we went to Cotton Bowl, we hung half 100 on them. And that was, you know.
Yeah, but it took courage. I mean, think about it. At Oklahoma, you changed offenses in the middle of the season.
Well, it's like I said,
it takes a hell of a lot of courage.
We had to. It was a smart thing to do because we're going to get fired.
I think take cowardice. You know you're going to get fired anyway.
Nah, but no,
that wasn't
was
what they told us,
Eddie. No, it was the right thing to do. It really was because we got people in the right places to play. I took Greg Pruitt from in out here. We couldn't get him the ball enough. Put him at halfback. Then Iowa State that year that knocks Everett Marshall out of the ball game and.
Well, let me
Craig
say,
Pruitt enters, and it's been history.
We switched offenses, and you told Jack he was going to throw the ball. He didn't. They moved me from starting receiver to second team running back because you wanted me to get the ball more. And it took me about 3 weeks to figure out how I was going to get that ball, stand on the sideline.
Hey, it all worked out.
It all worked out. With Iowa State, it all worked out.
As a broadcaster, you didn't tell me about that. And we're up there at the Cotton Bowl, and I see Greg Pruitt come out number 80. He goes to the dressing room, comes out wearing number 30. I said, boy, something's up.
You know, Coach, what's amazing about that is that when you made that change, in college football, it set a trend that really went almost 15 years. Because when you put the speed to the wishbone, when you played Alabama in the 70 Bluebonnet Bowl, I guess it was, 24-24, Bear Bryant saw the speed, people going up and down the field. Texas realized it. Later on, it influenced Nebraska to start putting their speed athletes, away from, put them on defense and other places, because that was the way to compete against this. But it seems like in all of college football, in the trends and the cycles, that's one of the most incredible trend-setting moves in the game. And it really marked the game for the next 20 years in terms of what's going on.
But thank God for defense.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian talked about it earlier.
To me, the key thing for the success of the wishbone was the quarterback. Because no matter how fast you are or whatever, the ball had to be where it should be all the time. And I've always said, Jack did that better than anybody. When the fullback was supposed to get the ball, he had the ball.
But it got so easy. I mean, don't you think? Didn't you feel like that the next year?
Well, you made it easy. One of the things you watch other teams run the wishbone, and one of the things about the quarterbacks at Oklahoma were taught, and Jack was the pioneer of that, was when the quarterback kept the ball, he would always challenge the defense. And if you go right and the momentum of the defense is going right, and you go far as you can and just flip the ball, you got a guy like Ball's going to keep going and make the tackle. But if you challenge him and make him hesitate, our backs were fast enough that one step meant a touchdown.
Well, I know one thing. In '71, I'm a freshman watching the Nebraska-Oklahoma game, and we all came back over the holiday to see that game. And I'm watching Jack take them up and down the field, and I'm thinking, man, we're going to have to get a whole lot better, because all those freshmen that were there watching that game and watching Oklahoma play the way they did that day, and I looked at Jack and I said, man, I got a long way to go. Because, I mean, what he was doing that day and set the trend for all the wishbone quarterbacks that followed, behind Jack. I mean, you're absolutely right.
You take Eddie's offense, Claude Arnold's offense. They're lined up in the dead tee. I'm going to tell you what. Wishbone and dead tee, Bud Wilkinson was doing something back in. The split tee, what do you call it? Wishbone, split tee. Basically, it was the same thing. He wore 8-man fronts out. And when I know wishbone, people come out in 4-4, wide tackle 6 against us, we're going to hang half 100 on, man, because the 8-man front can't. Wide tackle 6, split T, run them out of business because it's the same thing. They can't because of the 8 technique and 7 technique. We're talking about option principle. And they run the dive. Well, hell no. The man ran for the pitch. Who has got the quarterback? The 7 technique's blocked with a tight end with a dive fake inside. Quarterback out. Same thing. They run up and down the field on people, rush for 400 yards a game, doing the same thing, split T, option football.
And Barry, it was the forerunner of what became the triple option and the wishbone. But one thing that happened to Claude Arnold, Claude was a junior when Darrell Royal was a senior. So Claude had only 1 year as a starting quarterback at Oklahoma, and he won the national championship. And he's gotten the least recognition of any of the quarterbacks through that early era. And what's little known about Claude, because he did have a wonderful arm. Jack, he was one of those guys deprived also. His coaches wouldn't let him put it in the air unless it was 1 minute left in the game, and I could hit 4 out of 5.
Coach, I thought every quarterback complained about not throwing enough.
In his case, though, the one thing he was also unrecognized for against Colorado that year, running the option play, because he could throw the ball well, all of us who envied that said, well, he can't run with it. So he just runs for 137 yards against Colorado and wins that game. So I had to shut up.
Jack, talk about the game of the century in '71.
Oh, Bob, where to begin? Well, a lot of y'all played in it, and well, that's why you come to Oklahoma, to play in games like that, to where one game on TV, it's a game we're still talking about today. I mean, Jerry Taggy, the Nebraska quarterback, and I, we have made a living off doing interviews. We have an act together, kind of, where if the Florida newspapers want to call and ask us about doesn't Miami and FSU or Miami and Florida compare, we've kind of got a little soft shoe act going there, and we make fun of them and we pick at them, and we of course don't agree. But Oklahoma, 475 yards plus or minus going into that game rushing. Pruitt's averaging 9 point something a carry. Hell, I'm the quarterback, and I'm averaging 5.6 or something like that. Well, and I've got the the least productive record of all the backs. Crosswhite's like 5'9", and Joe and Roy Bell and whatnot. And I was asking a class to predict the score. One of my favorite classes, by the way, over in Dale Hall. I wish I could have taken it all the time. Well, I said it's going to be 50-21. We were going to have to score 50 because I was hung up on this half 100 stuff. And
got used to it.
Huh? Well, yeah, we were used to it. And really, I mean, the Nebraska defense that was the best in the country. They'd never been behind all year. And so we play this game on a cloudy, gray day. I bet there must have been 250,000 people that have told me they were there. So I don't know how the stadium held it all, but my memory is that Oklahoma played as well as it could. The difference in our game in '71 versus '66 Michigan State, Notre Dame, or some of the other big games, the 1 versus 2s, is Oklahoma, we all played to win. We were ahead twice, they were ahead twice. 1 or 2 fumbles in the game. Yeah, Rodgers' punt return was a great play by a great
clip.
Well, yeah, I think so, but great play by a great player. But Johnny Harrison, my old high school teammate, had an absolute great day. And then some things that don't get talked about. You see, Greg had such a great record that year that in the Nebraska game, I think he had 53 yards on 10 carries. Well, 10 used to be a quarter, or at least a half in the old days. And yet, because of the way Nebraska was playing and how good they were, they forced the quarterback to keep the ball. Nobody else had done that to us all year. And Pruitt, no complaints. He was on time, by the way. He was on time for the game. But no complaints. And this guy is about as ferocious a blocker as anybody we had on our team. And so Greg Pruitt, very unselfishly, plays this game. And yet there's that one play, if you remember, going down the east boundary? And this guy, the guy that played in the pros for a long time, played at San Francisco. Okay, Willie Harper. Harper takes the quarterback out of mistake, and Pruitt's dancing down the boundary. And I watch Harper run, and he's screaming to himself. He's got his hands on his helmet. Devaney's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. so you remember that? Going down. So, yeah, I don't have any bad memories. Yeah, I wish we'd have won. But, gosh, so many good things.
I always say we didn't lose. We just happened to be behind when the time ran out.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
From some of your perspectives, let's go around in the time we have remaining. The most memorable game for you, Dewey. What game comes to your mind as the most impactful that you've been part of?
I think the most impactful game would be the one that Jack just described to us, because I was in the stands watching that game as a high school football player. I think it set a standard, I think, not only for the people of Oklahoma and Nebraska, but I think it set a standard for the whole country, that the media was there, the attention was there, because you got 1 and 2 playing for it. And I think it's all of us as athletes, you know, as a high school player, all the dreams you could ever have about playing college football, you saw it unfolding. And I think what attracted so many good athletes, like including all of us, to come to Oklahoma University was the fact that
That is embarrassing.
He's got a vote off here.
No, it's not that it rings, but that damn voice note. Yeah. What in the hell? Heisman Trophy winner. Look at that. Yankee. Well, here, turn it off. I want to hear it do it. Go ahead, do it. I want to hear it.
But I think it's the fact that you can go to a lot of schools and you might be able to live that dream out. You can win 8. You can get to some of the bowl game, but to get to the bowl game, you realize when you come to Oklahoma University, you come into that school to add something to what's already there, to be a part of a program, and it's a machine. And I think when we look back at every athlete, every coach that brings something positive to this university, we as a group uphold them in that. Be it a John Blake, be it a Coach Switzer, be it a Bob Stoops, but Wilkerson, the idea is we come to this school to bring something positive. And when we come there, we have a right to play for number 1, to be number 1, to welcome the idea of challenging that position and to uphold it. And I think a lot of athletes would love to see that position. And so I think that was the ideal game when you say that game rose into Texas and to more Nebraska games, to the Big 12 championships, to your national championships. So all those games are part of it. I think that's what makes us family. You know, I think it's what makes me look at Eddie Crowder, Cumby, Steve Davis, Casillas, and we're all one group. And that never changes. We look at the fact that we shared one time, one school, one idea of going out and challenging number one. And that's the greatest thing sports offers us. It's the idea to go challenge to be number one. And at this school, you get that right to do it every year.
What did you major in college doing?
I got a BA in journalism and a MA in philosophy.
I knew it was philosophy. I knew y'all would know that he's a little different there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Philosopher's a person that goes down deeper and stays longer and comes up less than anyone else. That's my man.
I'm gonna leave that alone. There's a lot
I used to have Dewey speak to our groups when we would have our recruits in. You can see why I would have Dewey stand up there in front of those high school recruits, because he's impressive. He is all of them. Not just Dewey, but Leroy and Lucius, both the brothers. I'm telling you.
Bring out my dictionary. Hold up.
Keith, what's your most memorable game?
It would have to be Penn State. I mean, I think that, you know, to play for the national championship, to be number one, like Dewey was saying, that's what it's all about. That's why you went to Oklahoma. That's why you get an opportunity to take 5 visits and Oklahoma end up on top, because I'm going to play on national TV and I get a chance to play for the national championship. And to be in that game against Penn State and getting a chance to win that national championship was unbelievable. Joe Paterno brought a great team down defensively. They had been shutting everybody down. They were solid. And, boy, I mean, we had a tough time, and we had a great defense. I mean, you know, I go back to the great defense we had during that time. They did a terrific job of giving us the ball over again on offense. But I remember one play, and it was the one when it's 3rd down and long. And I still ask Kenny Jackson, who actually played at Penn State, I go, it's 3rd down and long. You play man-to-man against me. No, that's not right. I'm the only person Oklahoma's going to throw the ball to. There's nobody else going to get the ball when we throw it, and they're playing man-to-man in that play, and Jamel Holloway drops back and throws that ball as far as he can, I believe, and I'm not going to get to this ball. There's no way I'm going to get to this ball, and I run, and I'm just running and then end up under it and going to the end zone, and Lydell Carr comes back a little later and pops one for about, 30, 40 yards for a touchdown, and how long was it?
It was a little over 6.
It was a little 6 yards. It was a run, and we win that game 25-10. That was a big one. And when it's for the marbles, I mean, you know, it's for everything. I mean, it's for the national championship. That's why you went to OU. I guess had a lot of these guys in the room doing that game, and we wear that ring proudly now.
Brian, you agree?
Oh, without question. And I think a lot of it had to do with the year that preceded that game, because the '84 season we went down to the Orange Bowl, and we laid an egg, and we gave an opportunity away to Washington to bring back a national championship. And
that was a coming out party for the Boz, wasn't it? That game?
Sometime during that year.
We talked about that when you weren't here.
Yeah. But
Boz can apologize to you later. We've already got that.
I
don't want to go through that again.
Was everybody?
A little Malden for me. What is it?
Yeah, Bud's box of Kleenexes
I'm gonna have to increase my meds later.
Ricky, what about you?
I would have to say the most memorable game was my senior year at the University of Miami, with all the talent on both sides of the ball, and the talent that Miami had on that particular team, all the all pros, wide receivers, for Michael Irvin,
Jerome Brown,
Benny Blaze, and Brett Perlman. It was just to be able to, you know, being at Oklahoma, the offense was always the headlines, but to go in the game with those type of wide receivers and give me an opportunity to play against that type of talent, I think that was probably one of my biggest games for me.
How about you, Tom?
You know, I think as an athlete, you always, you know, the big games are big, but it seems like you always remember the ones you lost, you know, like let's take OU Texas, a 15-15 tie. I mean, we got hosed so many times in that game, from a fumble to we end up stopping them in 4th and 1st and 1 on our goal line, And they tried to run, outside, inside, outside, inside. They couldn't do that. But the worst call was with Keith Stanberry, intercepted the pass in the end zone and was like, 3 yards in bounds. And, make a long story short, we ended up tying that game. But that was such a disheartening loss because you'll look back. I mean, instant replay was born then. I mean, that game would be a no-brainer. We would have won. But obviously, as Keith was saying, a national championship. And, the year before, we didn't go down there and take care of business. We just kind of went down there and just had,
We
I remember getting
out-partied
trapped
everybody.
all day
That's what
long
I'm
going
saying.
upfield.
We out-partied everybody.
And so, the next year, obviously, we took care of business and we won. And, Barry, he put the screws to us, and rightly so, because, man, we could have had a chance to win back-to-back national championships when you look at it. All the things were there as far as what we had to do as far as take care of business in '84, but those two things are probably the most things I ever.
It was also meant to be, because if you remember in the locker room, I know fate has a lot of reasons for things that happen. That's the same year that Troy got hurt. Without Troy going down, I don't know that we win the national championship. And the way the numbers all laid out, at the end of the day, we win the national championship, and we end up tying Bud Wilkinson. And for me, stand in the locker room and watch Coach Switzer get to the pinnacle of where he wanted to be. I could see in his eyes that he wanted to match what the predecessors had already done and established, and that he was going to continue forward. His name was marked for life. And to be part of that, in my mind, today it still gives me goosebumps. It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And to be there at that moment and watch him wave that ring in my face, just sends chills down my spine.
We made it happen as a team and all, but Eddie, that was really ironic. It's just hard to believe that I didn't say anything to the team, and I mentioned that in that tape after the game. Remember in that team locker room? I said, we're going to win this national championship tonight. I knew that because going into this game, Bud Wilkinson's record at the same point in time, he had won 124 games. He had only lost 24 and won 3 national championships. Tonight, beating Penn State, we've won 124. We've only lost 24 and won 3 national championships. We're exactly the same numbers at the same point in time in our career. I mean, it's just uncanny that happened. I said, I didn't want to mention anything all week long. But I kept thinking about it. People brought it up to me. I didn't think about it. Someone, you always got those stat guys around and said, well, guess what? This is what it is.
Well,
That's how it's going to be.
I'm glad nobody said anything about it, because there would have been a lot more pressure on us, because every one of us would have, laid on I-35 and killed ourselves had we not done that for that man.
I tell you what, it was so great to go into the College Football Hall of Fame and see Coach Switzer's numbers on the board. And 2 other great coaches went in that day, Grant Taft and Bill Yeoman. I mean, those guys are great for their schools, no doubt about it. But when you saw their numbers and then they posted coaches' numbers up there, you go, now what are those guys getting in there for? His numbers were unbelievable.
Murph, how about from your standpoint? You've been with the university since there was one, so it seems. Too long. The special memories, the most important or impactful game that you've seen during your tenure?
Oh, there's been a bunch of them.
We've got time.
I don't know. To me, my favorite game is the Nebraska game in '85 when I think they were ranked 1 and we were 2 and didn't give us much of a chance. And we just had such a spectacular day on offense and defense. Shouldn't have scored on us. Went up and down the field. And, of course, it set the table for the national championship later on. And that's probably my favorite game. But there have been a bunch of them, obviously. I've been there now through 2 national championships with Bob's and a lot of great years and some not so great. And I'm sure the great ones are better.
I'm sure. Yes, sir. Jump right on in.
In November 1957, Notre Dame beat us 7-0 at Norman. And it broke the 47-game winning streak. And I'll never forget what Coach Wilkinson said. He came in, it was very quiet. Bill was there. Jay, I don't know who. Bob was there, of course. And he said, I'm going to tell you guys something. I'm proud of you. He said, you have done something no major college football team will ever do again. He won 47 straight games. And he said, just remember this, the only ones that never lose are the ones that never play. And I always thought about that, because if you're going to compete in life and everything else, you're going to lose. But, and he did put the word major college team in there, because that Mount Union broke the record as a small school. But he knew what he was saying when he said major college.
He always did.
Yeah, he always did know what he was saying. But I remember now, I'll say this, the next week in practice, he wasn't quite as the same attitude. And I will say one more thing about Coach Wilkerson. If he could see the highlight films on Joe Washington, he would let him wear the gold shoes. Silver, I'm a silver. Any color he wanted.
You know what, I would just think about the shoes, and I think about Jack Bear, because we all talk about, you know, the first, you know, when you first get there and you get your uniform, you go to Jack Bear, and he asks you what size shoe you wear. You say 10.5, and he gives you 9.
Curl up your toes.
Yeah, I mean, and you get out of there. And I think the one time I think I really got Jack was the Colorado game, my freshman year. And I told Steve this story. This is the truth. This is when I first decided to wear silver shoes in a game. So I'm in the stall, and I brought my spray can of paint, silver paint, and I'm in there spraying my shoes, getting high as a kite. So I'm glad I didn't. So I'm glad I didn't play. You know, play. They go like, I don't know what would have happened, but I'm in there spraying, and Jack would walk by, and he's smelling it, and he's saying he just couldn't understand, you know, where that smell was coming from. So I painted him that day, and put the shoestrings in. Didn't play much that day. We lost that game. So we came back, and this is really the first time. Coach only told me twice in my whole career about me wearing those shoes. And this was the first time we played Kansas State, and we played. I got a chance. This was the day, you know, I missed the bus with Greg. And we had a pretty good game that day. So we were looking at film the next Sunday, and he's sitting there rolling thing back and forth, and he just said, "Little Joe." I said, "Yeah, Coach." He said, "What are those things on your feet?" I said, "Those are my silver shoes." He said, "Okay," and just kept running film. Didn't say another thing about it. So my junior year, we're playing Colorado. He calls me over and says, "Little Joe." I said, "Yeah, Coach." He said, "You keep my ass in trouble all the time, those nice shoes." I said, "What do you mean, Coach?" And he said, "I think Mallory, was talking about how we were undisciplined and Coach didn't run a tight ship or whatever else. And just to show you, he has his kid running around in these silver shoes." And this is what his coach is telling me. I said, "Well, Coach, what do you want me to do?" He said, "Put a couple of $100 on them." Hey, this is true. I had, what, 200 with one carry in the second half.
Right.
So, like I say, those are only 2 times Coach ever told me anything really about those shoes.
First time in history a guy had to paint his shoes at halftime again.
That's right.
That was the halftime I walked into. This, y'all probably heard this story, some of you. Recruiting is the key. Acquiring a talent is the key. And I've always thinking about the difference, make an edge in someone. The true story, I went behind a kid's house one night because I wanted to know what the daddy drank, because I knew the damn daddy's going to offer me a beer. So when he offered me the beer, I said, "Only if it's a Pearl." The daddy looked at me and said, "You drink Pearl?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I take it across the Red River for the cases when I go back to Oklahoma." So you got to have an edge in recruiting. No, I'm serious. I did that. I wanted to know what kind of beer he drank because he's going to ask me when I went in that house. But I go into the locker room. Joe's putting half 100 on him. I mean, about 100, but he's probably putting nearly 200 yards rushing on Colorado up at Boulder that day. So I'm going in, there ain't nothing to talk to the team about. And there's got a payphone. Eddie, the locker room had a payphone on the wall.
Well, yeah, you didn't think we were going to let you off for nothing.
Yeah, we had a payphone over there. But yeah, I think I ain't got nothing to do. I had Bobby Bell give me a quarter, dime, or whatever it took in back. I dropped it in there and I called CJ's Conoco service station, Hooks, Texas, on I-30 coming out of Texarkana. And the guy, CJ, answers the phone. CJ, "Is Billy there?" "Yeah, he's outside pumping gas right now." I said, "Let me talk to him." He comes inside and says, "Hey, Billy, it's Coach." He said, Coach, you're supposed to be at the game. I said, hell, I am at the game. It's halftime. Aren't you listening to it? He said, yeah, I'm listening to it on the radio right now. So I'm out there pumping gas. I said, I want you to call you, let you know. He says, hey, he says, I want you playing for me next year. I want you to be the guy carrying the ball like little Joe doing the thing. We talked for 20 minutes, half. The official comes back, taps me on the shoulder, and he says, Coach, time to get your team back out in team. You got 5 minutes. I said, hear that, Billy? He said, I got to finish his ass kicking. I'll call you back later. I said, I know Billy Sims knows I can't call anybody else, Bo. You know what I mean? That time frame, you do a coaches at night, you pick a phone. I was just thinking about you and how important you are to our program, Billy knew I had a choice to make. I can call one person. And I called him. So it makes a little edge in recruiting.
Oh, blew me away.
But,
blew me away.
The story I like to tell.
Blew me away. And the fact I come up to visit that weekend, little Joe, of course, they're going to put the ace guy on me, show me around and everything, and finally get a chance to meet Coach Swisher's family and everybody. So I goes to his house, and this little kids, they was little rocks then. He said, Sims, guess what? I said, what, Coach? They want you here so bad, they already selling your jersey with the name on them. All his kids had number 20 on them. And Sims on the back of the jersey. I said, Coach, I'm coming to this. Oh, real.
Little red 20s out there, Billy.
I believe it. Billy. I went back to Hooks, Texas, man. I told the whole town they selling my jersey. I'm signing.
Did you tell Jack Bear to put that on there for me?
No, I hadn't made up. I wasn't made up. I had all my kids come running out the car when Billy came to the house. They didn't know that bad, but they were about this. Yeah, Kathy with the big thick glasses and Greg with Coke bottle glasses. But they had 20 and Sims on. But to me, what's special is y'all players and the relationship you had players. All the wins and championships, bowl victories, all those things are great, but it's the relationships, and that's the only thing that really matters in life is the family and relationships you have and the love you have for one another. Right. And things that make important. You talk about what games are important, these plays and all. It's things that in your tenure, in your career, it is relationships and moments that you have that are special between you and that player. Now, like I've had it between little Joe, because we all know Joe was a superstar and what kind of player he was. And Joe's senior year in the last game playing at Norman, Oklahoma, I did what I thought was right, and I had Joe come off the field with the 30 seconds to go in the game because I knew 75,000 people were going to stand and applaud. Well, for a week after that, Joe was walking around pouting like a damn baby and wouldn't hardly speak to me. And I bothered him. I said, what's going on? Joe rushed in his career for 3,995 yards. He missed 4,000 yards by 5 yards. And I took him out of the game for the right reason, but I didn't leave him in there to get a goal that he didn't communicate to me that allowed him to do something he wanted to do. Lack of communication. And I've always regretted it. I've thought about, I'm doing the right thing, but Joe was upset about that.
Still are, Joe.
But no. Hey, but the other is one day. Hey, of course, we get Billy come to Oklahoma, and we know what a great player Billy was. And we go that last season in 1979, Herschel Walker came out early. Remember, he's the first guy to come out to go to the NFL, started the vogue for players to come out early. So what happens is Billy comes in my office, Brian, in 1978. He wins the Heisman Trophy. I know he's got an agent because those kids that are good players that got agents don't ever come to me anymore for help. You know what I mean? Thank God. You know what I mean, Eddie? I know they got an agent because they ain't coming to me for help. So Billy comes in my office and says, Coach, I'm thinking about coming out. I'm going to go pro. And, I've got, I've been here 4 years and won the Heisman. And says, I've got. I know you're old as hell. You're afraid you're going to get too old for the NFL. So what happens is, I said, Billy, you promised Miss Sadie you're going to get a degree and all that. So I'm doing the best I can. Hey, I'm pumping away. And I said, really, bottom line, says, what do you and Brenda need? And he said, well, I got some bills out there. I said, how much are they? He said, about $1,500. I think I can handle that. And so I said, you come back tomorrow and we'll get that handled. So I got that handled the next day. And, well, that next year, we're going down trying to win the national championship again. And we lost to Texas in a close game, and we're undefeated the rest of the way. And we got to play Nebraska, ranked 2 or 3 in the country. And the week before, we got a tough game on national television. Billy rushes for 280-something yards up at Missouri, and we got to go back on national television in Norman. And Nebraska is undefeated, 10-0, leading the nation, the black shirts, in 68 yards a game rushing. I mean, you know, they always did. They ain't the same black shirts of old today, you know what I mean? But they were then. They were a great defensive football team. Well, they only given up 68 yards, and it's Thursday afternoon. We're doing a kicking game, and I walk over to Billy, and I sit down beside him. We're just sitting there talking about his career and what he accomplished. And Miss Sadie going to get his degree. You stayed. You won the Heisman. You're probably not going to get it. Charlie White's they're going to probably give it to Charlie. He's leading, getting a little more yards than you, but you had a great week on national television last week, and you got one more left in you. You know what Billy did? He turned to me and said, Coach, I saved the best for last. I got one more in me. I said, really? You know, kind of excited me the way he said, yeah. I said, watch me Saturday. That's a true story, what you told me, right? First play of the game, we gave the ball off the fullback. We always do, try to see how people play the corner and perimeter, you know, for the option play. We ran to something else, and it's 3rd down and 3. And we hand the ball to Billy. He goes 73 yards the first time he touched it. Touchdown. They call it back. We clipped on the play. Freddie Nixon. Well, we take it on in, get the field goal and all. Well, let me tell you this. I'll hurry it up and finish it up. With 2 minutes, 1 minute to go in the game on the PA system, they announced. And we're leading. We got the ball down. We got the score down. We just scored, went ahead. J.C. Watt scored. We're leading by 3-4 points, and we're running out the clock. And the PA system, they announced on the PA system, Billy Sims has now rushed for 247 yards. The most yards ever rushed on a Nebraska team. Today, the most yards ever rushed on a Nebraska team. He had one left in. And I think about that. I mean, think about the moment that he said that and then go out and do that and beat their ass and had a 73-yard run call back. You know, that's pretty stout, pretty strong. That's the things I think about.
Had to do with you know, I'm going to cut it short. My first pick was really Baylor University. Believe it or not, I wasn't Texas or Arkansas. Remember one time when you came to my game, Frank Ball, Durwell, y'all was all in that little old box at Hooks. It wasn't wide as this. It wasn't wide as this. And I sneak out the door because I didn't want to see any coaches and go eat my ritual chicken fried steak then after the Friday night game. Because I had to go back that Saturday and clean up the stadium. I did that. I really did. But one guy snooted me out. The old hound dog over there. Couldn't get away from him. But he told me, he said, yeah, you can go to Baylor, but we're going to kick your ass every Saturday when we play you. That's all it's going to be there is you and Baylor. And I saw the whole picture then. When you're surrounded by great players and great athletes, it really make your job a lot easier. I learned that when I went to Detroit, by the way. But I appreciate Coach, not just for giving me the opportunity to come here, but at one time I almost left OU. He probably don't, Coach know that. I was thinking about quitting.
Most of you do. Casillas, I had to go get him too. How many of you didn't have to go get?
And
I wasn't going nowhere, Coach.
We won't go into that.
but I was. And you know, as a youngster, you know, you high recruit and everything. You stay hurt, and you can tell a lot of the coaches don't want to talk to you and won't want to be around you. You know, but Coach Switzer stayed in my corner and believed in me, and the rest is history. And I love you for that, Coach.
I love you too.
Really do.
I love all of you.
Yeah,
I
know
think
that.
the thing about it, you know, you come in
And
there
when, it's not about, because all the schools I visit, only one ever talk about family, and that was Oklahoma.
And that's what we talked about. Spencer was talking about, you know, when he was talking about John Blake, is that, you know, when you go away, and especially, you know, you come in a room like this with all the great players that have been a part of this program, you know, it's kind of hard to get that fraternity and kind of the niche and as you go on in your, you know, life after football and everything, you know, and you're able to come back and, you know, it's like you sit there and tell stories and, you know, only, you know, players that can relate to and you know, even in pro football, I mean, you don't have the family that you do in college, especially the University of Oklahoma. And it's guys like Coach Switzer and, you know, Steve Davis, Merv Johnson. You know, Merv recruited me, and I mean, he was, I saw him more than I saw my teachers at school. He was there all the time. He's a great guy, but that's the thing about it. All this room is you come in here and it's just like you go back to when this goes back in time. You start talking about the stories, and the University of Oklahoma is just the place that I'm glad that the players can do that and be in a room where that's all you talk about is the times that you remember and the battles, because it's hard to replace that in real life as far as what you accomplish on the field.
I like to share the experiences. There was times when we'd be in our dorm room, and I grew up in North Tulsa, man. We were broke as the Ten Commandments. We didn't have anything coming up. But if somebody came by a dorm room or something, we had those couches that kind of sit low. And every once in a while, my roommate at the time was Roy Owens, who's from Booker T. Washington, Tulsa. And we were hungry. We didn't have any money, So Roy, he was upset at something. He was looking for something. And he pulled up the top of the cushion on the couch. Saw a lot of money in there. So he said, I wonder how that's happening. So Roy said, well, when you sit down, if you sit down at the right angle, all the money, if you got coins in your pocket, it just falls out. He said, well, we're going to have everybody sitting there. When they come up here, and at the end of the month, we're going to find us some pizza and Krusty's. We're going to go something to eat.
Sit on that couch.
Sit on that couch right over there.
I'll tell you the greatest moment, and I think the only moment I ever wanted to cry on a football field. And all of you played together with a group of players for so long. The year we graduated, it was about 15 seniors that graduated the year I came out. I remember about 14 of them went in the draft, and 4 of them was second teamers. We were pretty talented back in those days. But that walk as seniors holding hands that last time on the field for that last home day game is just something that really stays in my mind as being special. It wasn't the victories. It wasn't even the defeats. And, I go back to the Kansas game we lost up there when Danny Bradley got hurt. But it wasn't that. But walking out there, I had to kind of fight back those tears going, this is going to be my last time playing with Ricky Dixon and Bosworth and Troy Johnson and Darrell Reed and all those guys just in the line. And I knew that was something special about it. But as I reflect now, sitting here with all these guys, I know that everybody in that room been through that. Everybody in this room has been through that. That last walk, this will be the last time that I hold hand with some of these guys. I'm fortunate enough to play with some guys maybe in the NFL, but this will be the last time. It won't be anything this special ever again. And it's better than high school. It really is.
Fortunately, those kind of memories can live on through gatherings such as this. We're going to wrap things up. This has been a very quick 4.5 hours, but we appreciate everybody being here today and letting me kind of eavesdrop and learn about your proud program, and all the best. And I know the fans at OU are going to enjoy this for years to come. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, before we leave, I think we should all come together in the middle of this floor. Do one Boomer, one Sooner. All right? We're a family. We came in as a family. We're going to leave as a family.
All right, boys, come on, lead us up there. Here we go. All right, take the mics off. Take those mics off. Hell, we electrocute ourselves here. That's the hell of a way to end the day, wouldn't it be? All right, here we go, gang. Here we go, team. Boomer, Sooner. Boomer, Sooner!
And on that Boomer Sooner, it's history. I'm Larry Black, executive producer of the Legends of Oklahoma Football. What an incredible treat it was to be in that room with 6 decades of Oklahoma football legends. I hope you've enjoyed it and will treasure it for years to come. If you have any questions or want to contact me, check out our website at www.sportsreunion.com or call our office in Nashville at 615-673-2846. Thanks for watching and God bless you.